Welcome to the Every Night is Game Night preview series, the show where designers and publishers share their passion and answer critical questions about their Kickstarter projects. If you're on the fence about a pledge, this is the show for you.
Every Night is Game Night preview series, episode 35, the Primordial Expansion for Planetarium with Brenna Noonan. Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to the Every Night is Game Night preview series. I'm your host, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us. Here are the preview series. We pride ourselves in really looking at what's there. We're not just going to do any old game that's on Kickstarter. We are going to preview games that we think are A, really, really good, and B, from, not the huge publishers or anything like that. So, but this game, so let's talk about this. This is a game called Planetarium that if you listen to our episode 60 of Every Night is Game Night, the regular show, you'll know that I love this game. I blew away Anthony and Francis of Antlab Games, so much so that they made their own video about the game. But when I saw that the expansion, which is called Primordial, hit Kickstarter, I immediately reached out to the creators and I had to have them on the show. And I have here Brenna Noonan, who has answered the call. Welcome, Brenna, to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Sorry about the little burst of enthusiasm over there. I love Planetarium.
Please do not apologize. I love it.
So thank you. Like I said, thank you so much for coming on the call. Yes. So this, like I said, on the previous series, we are very selective about our games. We want to make sure we're previewing the best games. This game's awesome. It so is. I play it to this day. Whenever I have a group and we just have 45 minutes, people want to play a casual game. Boom, here we go. Planetarium, unique theme, all this kind of stuff. Okay. So this Kickstarter has the base game and the expansion that is currently live. When we drop the episode, there'll be about 10 days to go, so you'll be able to take a look for yourself. But let's get into it. Let's talk about Planetarium. No, let's not get into it. We are going to talk about Brenna first. I'm so excited about the game that I'm about to skip over my usual intro. No, but we are about people here at Every Night is Game Night, and I want to hear about you, Brenna.
Well, to be fair, Planetarium is pretty exciting, but I'll try to measure up.
So maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe your background in gaming and how you got involved in this particular project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work for the publisher, Sparkworks, who is a publishing imprint of the larger company GameSuit, who you probably know. So for Sparkworks, I wear a bunch of different hats. I develop games. I wasn't involved in the creation of Planetarium, the base game, but I did help develop the new expansion. We're going to talk about Primordial. I also do marketing and PR and general publishing stuff, working on rule books, proofing, things like that. So yeah, I've been there for over a year and a half now, and it's been really great. Get to work on a lot of cool projects.
Very cool. So that was correct. You did hear that this is a Game Salute game. The original printing is from Game Salute, so just because you heard a different publisher, don't worry about that. This expansion is fully compatible with the game that is on your shelf right now if you have Planetarium. Yes, we are going to talk a little bit about Game Salute and the reputation that has been accrued over the last couple of years, and how the company is trying to turn that around. We're also going to get into the next project, which is Everdell. Everdell is a popular game among our audience. We're going to get to all that, but the main show, the reason why we're here is to talk about Planetarium. So let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the base game. For people who don't know what this is all about, people who don't know why I'm hooting and hollering, maybe you can give us the executive summary of what Planetarium is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. So Planetarium is kind of like a lightweight strategy game where the object is to create a new solar system. And the way that you do that is you are moving different kinds of planar and different kinds of matter and planets around the board, and you get to crash them into each other and create new planets that way. So you have a hand of cards. Each card has a different condition on it, like you may need to create a rocky planet that's habitable, and you need to do that using metal and water. So you need to go around the board, collect those materials, and play the card on the appropriate planet to make sure you meet those conditions. It's a really elegant, streamlined game. I think one of the things I love most about Planetarium is it's almost like meditative. If you've seen the board, it's like almost mandala-esque, might be the appropriate term. It's like a lot of interlocking concentric circles. And just like the way you move around the board is, it's very slow. Like it kind of evokes the creation of space because, these things don't happen all at once. It's a long process. So, you get a limited amount of movement, but it's interesting, like what you can do with that movement.
And the thing that I like hearing you talk about it, it kind of crystallized for me why I love this game so much. So you don't have your own like player piece. It's not like you have a player piece and you're kind of taking stuff and you're looking at your quadrant of the board and whatever it is. Like you're just basically gathering resources into your own personal tableau, but it's from the entire board. So you basically have this kind of God's eye view of the board and everybody's looking at the same stuff. And that's why like you're constantly kind of ingesting that mandala or however you pronounce that. You're always looking at it. You're always looking at the entire board. And, you can get in each other's way, obviously. Yes. But that's not the feature of the game. The feature of, because there's 4 resources, but there's like, 20 plus copies of each resource. So you basically going to get whatever you want. There's a couple opportunities for snatching, but like for the most part, you can kind of just build and you're rewarded for building an engine and, comboing planets into each other. I really dig it. This is such a great game. It's like Brenna was saying, family weight, 45 minutes ish. Just really and it packs a lot of punch. So I just can't say enough.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And yeah, it's definitely not like a take that game, but it has some like unintentional take that moments. Like I've played a ton of times where I'll do what I think is like a very innocuous move, like move one planet to another orbit, and somebody at the table will go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that."
How dare you give me that planet back?
Or conversely, like maybe you just helped somebody out, like maybe they wanted that to happen. So it could go either way.
Yeah. So the game has a solo mode. It's a very simple solo mode. It's just a die that denies you resources. So it kind of speeds you up and everything. So there's a lot of goodness here for a lot of different types of gamers. Let's fast forward to the expansion because we have the Primordial Expansion that is on Kickstarter. It seems to address in different ways. So just to give kind of context, one thing that bothered me about the base game was that it's very sudden. Like the end is very sudden.
Yeah.
Right. So you're playing, and you think finally, okay, I can start to combo my planets together. And then someone starts to trigger that kind of end game sequence. And it's like, oh, okay, now I have to finish my planets and it's over. So it sounds like the expansion addresses that. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Planetarium's been out for like about a year and a half now. I think it came out like obviously not this past July, but the July before that. So over that time, we've gotten a ton of player feedback, had a lot of reviews, and like the response to it has generally been really great. Like it's been a really good seller for us. People really like the game. But like one of the main things we heard was, like the end game felt a little bit abrupt. And then also people kind of wanted it to be a little bit longer because it does occupy that nice like filler weight and time. But there are people out there who wanted something a little bit meatier. So we definitely wanted to address that with this expansion.
All right. So how do the 2 modules in Primordial address that and other concerns?
Yes, Epochs is one module that's really like the lengthening module. So that one incorporates Proto Planets, which are a new feature. So that starts out with the solar system like in its total infancy. So if you're playing the base game, you start out planets already created. There are no planets at all on the board. So you have to create them. And what's interesting is in the base game, you're always going to have 2 gaseous and 2 rocky planets because they already exist. In Epochs, they could be either. So depending on how the planets are created, you could end up with 4 rocky, 3 rocky, 1 gaseous, any combination. So you really get to dictate in which direction your solar system goes. And then Epochs comes with a new deck of cards that allows for that because if you know the base game, you'd know the base game wouldn't allow for that. So there's a lot of cards in the expansion to deal with that. And then also has a feature called the Late Heavy Bombardment, which on the evolution track, which is what gets filled up with matter and is basically the timer for the game. When that gets filled, that's the end game trigger. But there's a point on the evolution track, which is like the acceleration point. So normally when you're playing and you get to the accelerator, everything goes double time. You can move 2 instead of 1.
I'd say right now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but whenever it goes, you're removing pieces from the board and it'll go on this track. Whenever it hits that acceleration track where the pieces start moving faster, I get there's a Pink Floyd song from Dark Side of the Moon, like I
can totally see that.
I can't not hear that. Some sort of like spacey thing going on. I was like, oh my God, it's the cosmos.
Yeah, so in epochs, instead of everything speeding up twice, what happens when you get to the acceleration track the first time is something happens called late heavy bombardment, which is all the matter gets redistributed, gets wiped off the track, redistributed around the board, and also comets come out, which are very cool. And comets basically function as like wild matter. You can use them for anything. And the late heavy bombardment is like an actual celestial event. I do not know enough about it to tell you exactly how it functions, but it happens like at a certain point in the creation of a planet when the matter kind of like reaches a critical mass and basically like collapses in on itself kind of. So that's all the matter coming back onto the board. And one of the cool things that people don't know is we actually consult with real scientists to make Planetarium because we have a pretty amateur knowledge of that stuff, and scientists from NASA know a whole lot more about it. So we spoke with a couple of people who were kind enough to guide us through the science of it.
Like actual NASA scientists, really?
Yes, yeah.
Wow. It feels like, if you read like, Stephen Hawking or something like that, like they'll talk about like T equals 0, T equals, 0.001 or whatever it is. And they always kind of talk about it in poetic terms. It's hard not to, and how like, like you were saying before, how the board is this kind of mandala thing. And then as you play the game, the planets are going to move and it's slow. And then it kind of, the whole thing speeds up. And then eventually like the board is basically empty and planets are formed along the outside of the board. And it just, just the basic flow of the game makes sense, and it doesn't like strain credulity like a lot of other games that are like, we're doing the science thing or we're doing a historical thing. And there's parts of it that kind of strain, you have to like forgive suspension of disbelief type thing. I don't get that here. I don't get that. It seems like almost frictionless, the integration of, at least a basic understanding of how the universe formed and, the game mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah, so we definitely wanted it to be, as accurate as possible because it just makes it even more immersive, makes it more thematic. So really, really happy that we got to work with some of those people to guide us through that process. And then the second module is called Frostline, which are 4 pieces that get added to the board, which make up the actual Frostline. So in space, that's a point in the solar system where it's basically like the delineator between where water water can be formed and then like where it becomes ice. So in Frostline, you have cards that you need to either play on a planet that is within the Frostline or outside the Frostline. And when you do that, they'll have different values of heat or cold tokens so you can play the planet. And what's cool is that they're dynamic because as planets move in and out of these orbits, they're getting heated and cooled. So like say somebody has played a lot of cold matter onto a planet because it's outside Frostline, but you move it in and you start playing heat matter on it, you can actually melt their cold tokens and remove them from their cards. And then those tokens are worth points at the end of the game. So you can take points away from somebody that way by melting or cooling their planets.
Oh, so is that a little bit more of a take that type mechanism?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's not too mean, but it can be a little mean.
It's like, I'm going to melt your points right now, swish.
And so I'm a big believer in expansions complementing games and not fundamentally changing them. So both these modules are obviously totally optional, and like even within them there's a lot of modularity. Like if you've been checking out the stretch goals we've been unlocking, we have a lot of cool stuff like dual matter tokens and habitable tokens, which we're adding to the game, and those are all totally optional also. So like if you're somebody who just wants like a warm-up game and wants to play a half-hour game of Planetarium, you can still totally do that. And then if you want to incorporate epochs or Frostline or both and want to add more tokens and make it like a more immersive, intense experience, you have the ability to do that also. So we really like the flexibility that Primordial brings to the game.
Wow. So so this is the first expansion. Are there more planned?
Yeah, we'll have to see. Stefan Vachon, who's the designer of the game, is, obviously great to work with. It is like a pretty tight design space because it's really been stripped down to its essential mechanics, which I think is what makes it great because it's so streamlined and so elegant and it moves so smoothly. So we're very wary of not crowding it. We're really happy with the point we got to with Primordial. So we'll have to see if, there's another way we can kind of manipulate things to bring something else to the game without kind of disrupting its natural balance.
All right. So that was Primordial.
That's my way of saying maybe.
Okay. To be continued, to be determined. Let's see how well it sells and how people react to it and all that kind of good stuff. Is there anything else that you wanted to share? There's a lot of it isn't just the game. You're getting art prints and you're getting all sorts of other extras too, right?
Yeah, well, we've gotten so many compliments on the great art in Planetarium and Primordial, which is by Greg May, who's the brother of the other developer of the game, Dan May, who's our creative director. Greg does amazing work, so we're really excited to be able to add some art prints in there as stretch goals.
Guys, this game is awesome. I can't, let me you guys know me. I don't do this often. Just do it, buy it, back it. This game, I love it. It sounds like the expansion answers a lot of what I may have been limited by, so yes, it's a very, very light game. Maybe this adds just enough meat on the bone, just enough time to kind of explore that this may just be a completely essential expansion. So just please, I mean, in all seriousness, this game deserves a serious look.
Yeah, just get it. Listen to Jason, just get it.
Okay,
and,
so
it'll be on Kickstarter through September 20th, which is a Thursday. I believe it's ending at 8 p.m. Eastern, so you can back it until then, and then we'll have late pledges and pre-orders as well.
Cool. So while I have you on the line, the next project that you are working on, poor Brenna, you are there on a Friday evening, still pounding out work at 9:00 at night. Oh my goodness. But you are hard at work at an expansion that we are familiar with, the expansion for Everdell. So maybe you can give us a short preview of that.
Yeah, so we are coming out with Pearlbrook, which is going to be the first expansion for Everdell. I think you said this episode was going to go up on Monday. So if that's September 10th, Pearlbrook will be launching on Kickstarter September 10th. So we're really excited about that. Everdell did really well for us on Kickstarter. First-time designer, James Wilson. It was also our first game under our new Starling Games imprint, which is kind of like the heavier thematic, real gamer game imprint under Game Salute. So it was kind of very uncertain when we first launched on Kickstarter because it was, this new brand that we were doing, first-time designer, not an existing IP, nothing like that. But the response to it was just amazing, and the campaign kind of blew up, and then the game has continued selling super well. We're actually almost sold out, which is pretty wild.
Wow.
So we had it at Gen Con. There was a great response to it at Gen Con. The response to it's been really amazing. And one of the stretch goals from the base game campaign was to work on an expansion. And backers voted on what they wanted the theme of the expansion to be, and they voted for a river theme. So in Pearlbrook, you're traveling to the river in Everdell, and you're actually traveling underneath the river with a new frog ambassador that you get. So we're adding another critter meeple to the game. Everybody gets a frog. So you send your frog to different locations around the river, and your frog gets to treat with different residents underwater. So you can meet new critters, build new aquatic constructions. You get a new resource. You get pearls in the game, which you can use to build stuff. And then there are also a few new things like wonders and adornments that you can add to your city just to make it even more spectacular. So we're really excited about that.
Mm-hmm. And just a pretty game.
And it's very pretty. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like
and Andrew Bosley is the artist that has done Everdell, and he's just one of the best. He's amazing.
It sounds like this game was basically genetically engineered to be pretty.
The theme is so rich, and he's just realized it so beautifully, and people have really responded to it. And a lot of people say it evokes Redwall or Beatrix Potter for them, and those were definitely inspirations for us. So it's really cool to see people have that response to it.
All right, so I cannot give the full gush about Everdell. I have not played Everdell yet. I will get it to the table soon enough. Go buy Planetarium while I'm selling stuff. I'm just going to go back to that one. But that is Everdell. That will be on live on Kickstarter as we drop the pod as well. Yes, they'll be running 2 Kickstarter simultaneously, which I do not envy that.
Yeah, that's why I'm working on Friday night.
You know. Okay, so you're talking about the different imprints of the game. So
Yes.
Everdell is under the Starland Games imprint, which is the kind of like, you saying before, a little bit gamery thematics type. It sounds like Sparkworks is the lighter on the lighter end of things, also thematic as well. So the larger company is Game Salute, and as we were saying before the call. And I asked your permission, so you said you were going to be free to talk about this. I did.
I'm not being ambushed here.
There are some feelings that people have about Game Salute projects and Game Salute games, so maybe kind of address that for some people who still have those feelings when it comes to Game Salute.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, like I said, I've been with the company for about 18 months, and so I know a lot of things that people talk about when they talk about Game Salute transpired for that time. So, keep in mind I'm talking about it from that perspective of coming in after. From my understanding, I think a lot of the things that people have gotten upset about, and rightly so, is as a young company, Game Salute took on a lot of projects very, very quickly. Right. They were very eager to get involved and just wanted to do so much. And part of the problem was they did that with not enough resources and not enough staff. So a lot of things really suffered, like customer service stuff suffered, community outreach suffered, production suffered. So Game Salute kind of radically contracted about the time that I came in, and like really pared down their catalog and got way pickier about the projects that they're going to do and the things they take on. And now we've kind of gotten that under control. So now we're getting to the point where we can kind of start expanding out again and, working on these really exciting projects like Everdell, because we've kind of gotten our house in order.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So is the organization into different imprints part of that reorg?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, we were looking at our catalog and we just had like all these different things. We had like Shadow Rift next to Planetarium, next to, Ella Minis, which is a kid's game. And it was just like, how do all these things fit together? Like, what's the vision of this company as a publisher? And, we didn't want to give any of those things up because we see a market for each of those games. So we're like, okay, what's the best way that, we can release these games, have them stand on their own, make it clear, like what demographic marketing toward, like what market we see these games sitting in. The way to do that was basically launch different imprints. So we have Starling, Sparkworks, and then also Flying Meeple, which is our kids and family line. So it's, some people have labeled it as a rebranding, which I wouldn't say, because Game Salute still exists as the parent company. It's just like a cleaner way to delineate how these games are categorized and make the catalogs like a little bit cleaner and more cohesive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you're going to get the internet stuff saying like, okay, just they're putting a fresh coat of paint on something, and there's still kind of that hesitance for it. But I think from what you're saying about Everdell, I think that was people were really kind of hesitant about that, because Everdell, it kind of had that thing of Game Salute in terms of over-promising, right? Mm-hmm. So, look, the awesome game, awesome Kickstarter, it's going to look beautiful, it's going to do this, but then it's going to be, 6 months to a year late plus of shipping, and we're not going to be able to contact the people or anything. So when people saw Everdell on there, that like it is basically like they're afraid that it was going to be that plus like a million because of how beautiful it looked. So it's like the more beautiful it looked, this must be a disaster waiting to happen. So I mean, did you get that feedback? And how did you respond to it?
Yeah, I definitely got that feedback. Definitely heard from people who said, I wish it wasn't Game Salute because I would love to back it, but I just can't because I will not support Game Salute. And my approach to it is basically just to talk to those people. I mean, if you're somebody who frequents like the big Facebook groups online or BGG forums, you've probably seen me in there on my personal account just like talking to people. So like for me, that's been the best way to go about it, just to say like, hey, like there are actual people behind this company. Like we're just like you. We're gamers. We want to put out an awesome product. like, let's talk through the issues you've had and see how we can resolve that. And it's been like really successful. I think once people, realize that, we're a team creating these games and we're committed to putting out a great product, and that, we're committed to righting the wrongs that have been in the past, most people are willing to give us a shot. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, would it have been easier to just ditch the whole thing and start over?
Yeah, I mean, it may have been. And it's kind of funny because I do see people saying sometimes, like, oh, like, heads up, Starling Games is Game Salute. They don't want you to know. And it's like, no, like, we released a press release. We were, like, very public. Mm-hmm. So, like, we're not shy about the past. Like, we embrace the past, like, with all its good and bad. We totally own the things that have gone wrong in the past and just try to right the ship from there. We have an awesome team putting games out, just like some of the best people I've ever worked with, really, really brilliant artists and creators. So I feel very privileged to get to do this work with them. And, I'm hoping that our output after a while will speak for itself. Everdell, you may know, was delivered about 7 months early to Kickstarter backers. So that was really exciting that we got to do that.
Is that like a makeup? You trying to do backsies on that?
I mean, it can't hurt, but yeah, so I'm hoping that people will see. Obviously, I know these things take time. If we can have a track record of showing that, we can get these projects out on time, we can have excellent customer service, we can listen to community feedback, we can address all these things, then hopefully they'll see that, as a company, we've made a real concerted effort to fix the things that were, like, definitely wrong, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm late to this Kickstarter game as a backer. Uh-huh. I don't like troll Kickstarter for, like, all the latest and everything. When I got Planetarium and I played it, I loved it and I enjoyed it. And then I didn't kind of recognize that it was a Game Salute game because I was so happy with it. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things, like, you hear it in the air and you make this judgment, right? That, everything that this company touches is probably garbage. And I played the game and I loved it. And then I realized after the fact, this is a Game Salute game. They can't be that bad, And then it just, kind of like, so really, like, what you were talking about is get out there, get your hands in the games, talk to the people. Brenna's out there, do you attend, like, cons and local and all that kind of stuff? So you're out there, right?
Yeah, you will definitely see me at almost every show. So come say hi. And like, I post on my personal accounts. Like, I'm totally available on Facebook, Twitter, Board Game Geek, whatever. Like, if you've had a bad experience with Game Salute and, like, you just want to talk about it and, like, figure out what happened and how to fix that, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk to anybody about that.
All right. So, I mean, again, I'm saying it over and over again. It's a great, what we're talking about, Planetarium, is a great project. Everdell, it just sounds like you guys are doing the due diligence and trying your best. People have their feelings about Everdell and all that kind of stuff, but you can't really deny numbers. If you're going to sell out the first print run, then people are obviously enjoying it. So that is to your guys' credit.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for kind of giving us a little bit of education about, being honest about the trials and tribulations of a company. And, you guys are just trying to, get it right. So, and I think that it's, the good faith is definitely evident. So that's awesome.
Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And thanks for having me on.
All right, that is going to do it for another episode of the Every Night is Game Night preview series. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Brenna for taking some time to talk about Planetarium Primordial. Yes, I am not faking it. I love the game. Please go to the page and give it strong consideration, see if it is a good fit for a collection. So if you want to get in touch with us about different projects, if you want to talk about, this episode, maybe talk about Game Salute and your terrible experiences and how, if you've met Brenna and she's convinced you that things have turned around, anything that you guys want to talk about, hit us up, ENGN_podcast on the Twitter. We have a Facebook group on Every Night is Game Night. EveryNightIsGameNight.com is our official website, which is the sister of BoardGamersAnonymous.com. We are all over the place. I got the Geek List. I'm on BG. Not Instagram, not really an Instagram guy, but you can only do so much of this stuff. But yeah, whatever, we do have really open channels. So wherever we are, you are sure to get a response if you want to be a part of this community. So that is going to do it. This is Jason signing off. Later, everybody.